So I have to slay the dragon. I've accepted this responsibility. I just sent out a bunch of appeals for people to keep me in their prayers and just surround me with positivity, and I totally believe in that. And I just let people know, like, just hold me in this space of light and love, and everything's going to be fine. And I just kept saying, like, no weapon shall prosper, no weapon shall prosper against me, no weapon shall prosper. And I was prayered up, lawyered up, and I was ready to go. Barack Obama, President Barack Obama, he spent some time in Jakarta as a child. His mom moved here when he was an adolescent, and he went to school, I think, for 4 years at one of the international schools. He speaks Bahasa Indonesian. I believe he even came to Indonesia as a sitting president. It was like the first U.S. president to come to Indonesia, I believe, from what people tell me. You see people walking around with Barack Obama t-shirts on sometimes. Like, they're so proud of him. And, even in the mall, there's like this guy who does these oil paintings. And like there's huge painting of President Barack Obama. So, I used to work for President Obama and his organizations. So I made sure, went back into my phone and found this picture of Barack Obama and I and my other colleagues. And I just said, okay, because this means something. This means something in this country. And I mean, it's totally different. Like when I first started traveling, when President Bush was in office, and I mean, it was hostile. I wasn't even in Asia. I was in Europe, and it was hostile. People definitely kind of looked at you a little sideways, and the international relations just was not so good with the United States, and you're going through the war and everything else. So it's such a plus to be able to have a president and being that people like abroad, and because it's a global world and everything, and to have a president that people in that country embrace and love and everything. So I just said, hey, if I have to let people know I used to work with President Obama, I'm going to let them know, because that will open doors, and people look at you differently and take it seriously and everything else. So anyway, I had to really decide, like, how far are you willing to go? Like, if this goes to court, are you really willing to pay for attorney, stay here in Indonesia, and fight this case? And I don't want to do that. I don't want to spend my money and time going to court in Indonesia. Like, no, I want to be able to go to Bali. I want to be able to explore. I want to be able to go to neighboring countries. I mean, I don't want to do that. And it's so stupid, because so much of the court system here depends on who has the most money. And it was crazy, because I was doing my risk and benefit analysis, and again, this guy had everything to lose. He could lose his school, his reputation could be ruined, he would lose, his reputation with the parents and the students. It would just, since he was the only one really running everything, he would have to take time and energy out of his day and money out of his pocket to go defend him and everything else. But I just said, look, if this guy is really going to try and do that, well, you better believe I'm going to have the best Indonesian attorney that I can find. And I've studied and have had some experience in regards to international law and everything else. I mean, I haven't argued cases in international court, but I've certainly studied like the international, court systems and various things. So then a part of me was kind of like, wow, what if I get to defend myself and, build a case, in another country? You know what I mean? Like, all these things were going through my mind. But I didn't think it was going to have to get to that point. And then I had to really, look at, his motives and, what is he trying to get out of this? And really, I really just believe that he wanted this person, employee, and he wanted to be able to control that person and keep that person underneath their thumb. And it wasn't going to work. So my whole thing shifted. I needed to get my documents back. Number one, because I was planning to be going to Bali for that national holiday in the next week. And I knew if he knew that I was planning to, because, he tried to hate on Bali before that I was going there, or I wanted to go there, but I never told him that I actually planned the trip. But I knew if he knew, he definitely was going to stall and figure out a way not to give me my passport back. Even if he said something like, oh, it's being processed and the agent has it and I can't reach the agent, they've gone on vacation, or I knew he would try and ruin it. And there was nothing that was going to get in the way of me going to Bali. Also, I need, I wanted to get my documents back just to have, for future jobs and everything. So I decided to make one last appeal. I was going back and forth because a lot of times, when something happens with me, I'll just react and I will just go hard, and just blow up, whatever like kind of like a whistleblower. And, I've done that in past jobs, and because sometimes you have people who know something is shady and they'll just sit back, they let it happen. Maybe they're not strong enough to speak up, and maybe it's not in their place in that moment to do it. So there have been times where I have been called to do it. So, but this time I just said, you know what? Fall back, ease up, and just see if you can reason it and just talk to this guy one more time. Because I hadn't talked to him in a good week and a half face to face. So I asked him when was a good time for us to talk, because again, I had 1 week until this national holiday, no response. So I just said, okay, I think he's kind of, he's catching on to something, or at the very least, he doesn't like that I'm calling the shots now and dictating things. So I just said, well, he teaches on this day, roll up to the school, there will be witnesses there because the students will be there and everything, and just pop your head in. And I knew he would, when he saw me, he would want to talk. So I get to the school, and I went in there, and, I just beeline, he was teaching. I opened the door and just kind of peeked my head in. There was only a few students in there. I just, peeked my head in for a second, make eye contact with him. And then I was like, oh, sorry. We can talk later. Now, again, he hadn't seen me in a week and a half. So I knew he was going to come out and want to talk. So he comes out, we go into this classroom. So, he says, oh, I'm feeling so horrible, and I'm so stressed, and now it's all about him now. Here I was really sick, and I'm not saying he wasn't sick, because he probably is. But now it's all about him, and he's the victim, and, oh, I'm so sick, and, and I told you I wouldn't be able to talk to you for another 4 or 5 days. Again, I knew he was kind of trying to buy that time until that holiday hit, and I said, nope. So then I was like, well, if you don't feel like talking now, when's a good time for us to talk? We can set up an appointment. I wasn't mean or anything or hostile or anything. I was really the exact opposite. So he was like, well, I don't know, but we need time to talk, and now's fine. And so I said, well, he's like, but if it's anything stressful, then I can't talk about it right now. And I'm like, well, it might be something stressful. So when's a good time for us to talk? So then he says, well, fine, what's going on? So I was very calm, and I just said, look, it's not working. Physically, I'm not feeling well. The amount of stress that you're putting on me is not, it's not working for me. And we have both agreed that, after a month, if things didn't work out, then we would part ways. And it would be no love lost. And, you spent a lot of time and energy and money to bring me here. I spent a lot of time and energy, money to come here. So, we both gave it gave a good shot at it. We both had good intentions. Well, I don't know about him, but, we tried to make it work, and it just didn't work. And there's no one should feel bad about anything. And now I think it's best that we move on and we part ways. And so I need my documents back, and I really wish you well. And so then he says, oh, yeah, you can have your documents back. That's fine, So, you've gotten your ticket already back to the United States, right? And so I knew, I said, oh boy, here we go. Wanting to control again. So I said, well, honestly, I wanted to speak with you first, because I don't know what my options are. And it was true. I really didn't know for sure all of my options, partially until I knew where he was coming from, and what he was going to do. So I just said, I talked with people, my family and some other people, and I think, I felt it was best for the two of us to sit down face to face and, kind of talk about what's been going on, and then I can figure out what my options were going to be. So, he didn't like that. So then he says, well, unless you're going back to the United States, then I'll see you in court. His famous line and everything. So then I had to look, get out my sword, Slay the Dragon.
Give it the rest and make them laugh again. In my mess up, me no run again. I have the man them stuttering. I'm getting this nigga in the morning.